Welcome to Wednesday Q&A, where you all ask the questions and we answer with delight and fun and our own opinions. I'm joined, as always, by my beautiful, lovely friend and co-host, lit teacher extraordinaire, Kristin Williams.
Hey, Lara. Hey, everybody. I think we got a good episode coming up, so stay
Oh,
tuned.
always. We could do this all day. Coffee talk, coffee talk. Okay. So at ozyoga.co.uk says, why do you think it is that you could have two people the same age with hyperlordosis, for example, one of them goes through life with no pain, and yet the other has been suffering with chronic back pain or hip pain for years? Dun, da, da.
I think this is something that a person on Instagram who says posture doesn't matter would jump on. See, I told you, posture doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the position of the pelvis is because it doesn't cause pain, blah, blah, blah. And, I think that the studies have shown that posture, there is no direct correlation. But we got to look at more than just posture. So they've got a hyperlordotic spine. And they're, but what are they doing throughout the day? How are they moving? A lot of people, think about people who have disabilities, let's say who have cerebral palsy or, spina bifida, and they walk with a very abnormal, dramatically abnormal gait pattern. They're not guaranteed to have back pain because if they are, really working to develop strength, to develop, proper movement habits, they are really put in a position where they have to they have to do the work to not develop pain just based on what they're dealing with in their diagnosis. So just because someone has a lordotic spine doesn't mean they're going to have pain. It's much deeper than that. So if they're having hip pain as well, you have to look and say, what's causing that? It's more than just a lordotic spine. We need to look at what's happening in their neck and their upper back. We need to look at what's happening all the way down at the foot. We need to look at right to left. How are they moving? What are their movement patterns that aren't serving them? Because it's going to show up. We will probably see that person who's having pain doesn't have very strong gluteals. They may not have very strong abdominals. They may not have very strong hip flexors, because they're sort of pitched forward. Well, so is the other person, but what are they doing in their daily life? Well, that other person B is not sitting at a desk all day long, or that other person B, is going and moving in multiple planes in different ways. So, I think this is another case of where people can become very attached to diagnoses. I've got a mild scoliosis. No one knows about that unless I happen to bring it up because it's just, so what? So what? Yeah, I've got a slight forward head, just from I've got a long neck. I didn't think about posture for most of my life, but I don't have neck pain per se. Why? Because I'm cognizant of where I put myself. And so I find myself drawing back in space throughout my day to combat how my body is set up. I've got bow legs, but I don't have hip pain. I don't, have knee issues because of my bow legs, because I do other things to circumvent pain. So pain is output from your brain. It's like Lara talks, it's information. It's your body saying something needs to change in the way you're moving. And that is many times not directly related to how your posture, your spine is. I don't want to say, how your spine is naturally made, because some people you basically, I don't know about made. I think a lot of this is nature, nurture. You look at babies when they're sitting in their toddler years, they are, almost everybody is as erect as can be. We learn how to position. You can watch a mother and a daughter walking, they walk the same way. Same thing with fathers and sons and fathers and we learn a lot from our parents. So just the position of the spine alone is not going to be enough to dictate pain. Laura, what else do you have to add to that?
Oh, this could be such a big conversation, but I think the big thing take home here is that posture is one ingredient of a very large pot. So posture can reveal quite a few things. It can reveal some biomechanical tendencies, some energy efficiency or lack thereof, how you're breathing. But yeah, there's so much more. Like, how are those people? So it's cellular too, right? So that person who looks the same and might seem like, oh, they're so, lumbar lordosis is only going to be a problem, or cervical lordosis is only going to be a problem if there's compression over time. But hey, maybe that person's like really happy in life. Their cellular happiness is better. Their lower stress, because pain, again, is very kind of runs the same pathway as stress. We need stress. Remember, stress is good until it's not. But if you're kind of constantly stressing yourself at a cellular level, meaning how you're eating, moving, not moving, drinking, feeling at home in your body, your relationships, it's so complex. So, again, you can have somebody who's like deliriously happy and you're like, how are they even moving? I've seen that. Like, wow. And they don't complain of anything. So it does to show you that there's many things that load. And so when we're not reductionist when we talk about posture. Posture is like the envelope that opens up all these different inquiries. It's like when you go somewhere and you get that questionnaire and it's like, if you answer yes to this, go here. If you answer no to this, and then it's like, it just like exponentially opens up. And that's kind of like what posture is doing. It is giving us a visual, idea of how somebody might be inhabiting their ecosystem. But then the ecosystem may or may not be impacted dramatically by it. So I have people who have lordosis, don't have low back pain, but low energy, fogginess in their head. Is that from the position? I don't know. We aren't saying A equals B. We're saying, let's try this. Let's set them up so they're breathing better, so they're feeling more space between the cervical spine and the bottom of the brainstem, which is responsible for life, and if we do that, does something change? We're not going to take credit for it. What we're just trying to do is help people. So we give them all the tools that might help, that have been shown to help, and some have not, have not been scientifically proven. I always feel like I get on here and I'm like ready to roll, but I feel like it's part of our human nature to want a black and white schematic. Do this, don't do this. Like you see it on social media, big X. I try and avoid that because it's not binary. It's not that simple and isn't that amazing. We are not cookie cutter. We're engineered similarly, but our output is very different. And there's a lot that goes into that, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so there's very expansive answer. And, I go back to my dad. My dad smoked for 30, almost 45, what am I talking about? 45 years. And he lived to 79. There's many people who would have died at 60. He never had cancer. Like cellularly, he was a happy dude. He had low stress, even though he had a high stress job, but he was really balanced. I believe that helped him. It isn't to say people that, have a disease or pain or something doesn't mean they're not happy. I'm just saying there's many things, and we have to look at the stress in people's lives, their lifestyle, how much they're moving or not moving, etc. All right.
Yes. Lara got very excited in that. That's why I started laughing, because you could just look at her face and
I know, because I love you all, and I know because we all want those answers. And I think, but isn't it amazing? We just have to have faith that we do what we can we do really as much as we can to take care of ourselves and to balance out, to create homeostasis from a cellular level out. So we go really deep. You can't just walk around with great posture and be a mean person and have stress and eat crappy and whatever to like it's
All
they
kinds.
all goes together. All right. Got a question. Here we go. Ischial bursitis. A friend of my husband's has this. They're kayakers and train 4 to 5 days a week. He's in extreme pain. Any suggestion? Lots of rest, but anything else you can recommend?
This is such a First of all, this is a tough diagnosis. It's another one of
You
those
want to
kind of
explain a little bit so people know
yeah,
what
yeah. So
like
you're
ischium?
yes. You've got your ischium is part of your pelvis, and it's at the base of the pelvis, and you have your ischial tuberosities, which are what we call the sit bones in yoga. You hear that a lot. And so several muscles, but mainly your hamstrings and your adductors they attach at that ischial tuberosity. And so where you have a lot of attachments, you will have fluid-filled sacs called bursa that kind of imagine that being like a little bit of a they provide a little glide because the body knows that those are going to be areas of tension. And so we don't want those tendons rubbing against bone. So we give it a little bit of a just a little fluid fill, like a little pillow for the like your pillow in your bed. And so the reason I call this kind of a junk term is we don't know if the bursa is inflamed. I mean, we've come a long way with diagnostic abilities. There is guided ultrasound. There's all of this, MRI that, we can see if a tendon is thickened, if there's, but we really never know, what stage of healing or injury someone's in. We can look at the fact that they're a kayaker. So let's think about the position. So if you never kayaked, you're basically in a long sitting position, which puts your legs out in front of you. There's a little bend in your knees, and then you're upright, and then, you're moving with the oars. So there's a lot of weight going right through those ischial tuberosities, through the sit bones. So that's one way that you can have irritation. We see this with people who, let's say, have a hip replacement and they have to lie on actually the other side all the time. Well, they start to develop trochanteric bursitis on that, which is on the outer edge of the hip, because they're weight bearing through that side all the time. We see it with people in their Achilles. People get Achilles tendonitis, anywhere there's friction. So the tough part is you got someone who's a kayaker who also sits all day at work. This is like the double whammy of let's just put as much pressure through a specific area as possible. So I would look at this person's not going to want to change their lifestyle. They love kayaking. Perhaps they're even really good at it. It's their sport. We need to look at what they're doing out of the boat. And we need to look at ways that they can, sometimes we need increased strength of those tendons around there. So they might need to do some eccentric work of the hamstring, of the adductor. But that's a fine line to walk because sometimes that can aggravate it even more. My point being, this can be one of my most frustrating diagnoses to treat, anything around that ischial tuberosity, because it's part of your pelvis. And so very few people habitually walk around with a neutral pelvis.
Mm-hmm.
So we get tilts, usually in the anterior, but occasionally in the posterior. So we're already kind of set into this movement pattern of tension on that ischial tuberosity, at the tendons, at the bursa there. So for this person, I would start at what they're doing out of the boat. You can absolutely look at, how their boat is set up. I don't know enough about that. Not even going to claim that I do. But you can also look at, how much thoracic mobility they have. Are they moving because they can't move in their trunk well? Are they just like a matchstick rubbing at the ischium, especially if they're like me and they've got a bony butt? I can't, there are some things in like yoga, like the rock and roll, that I just can't do because I got a bony tailbone. I'm better now that I've got bigger glutes, but it is what it is. So I'm going to stop there. Lara, what else do you have to say to that?
I mean, I agree with you. This is like a real conundrum because the very thing you love doing and you're doing so much is exacerbating it. And there's no kind of middle ground. I don't think you can get off your ischium, your ischial tuberosities to kayak. I don't think you can do it in a kneeling position or anything. But I really love what you said about thoracic rotation, because if you don't have that and the movement of the kayak, you could be very well just swiveling on the pelvis. And that is grinding into that area. So for one, I would say, like, if somebody came to me, because I've never want to take something away, but I'm like, you're going to have to let it go for a little bit. It's like running. If somebody comes and they have Achilles tendonitis and they're like, I need to get running again. I'm like, you have to let it go for a little bit to think of long term, because some of these areas, once you've just like, like just irritated the crap out of them, it's going to be hard to it's going to be hard to undo that without taking away some time where you are doing it. So you need to work on thoracic rotation. You got to work on getting extension in your spine, getting your posterior chain more strengthening, like you said. So I'm imagining like some quadruped and some cobra and some really like position of the neck. Like, what is all of those things? So I think something like our reset would be amazing to do. And then maybe take away one day, so you've got some space. So you're saying 4 days a week. Can you do it 3 days? Where you've got like one day, you take a couple of days off and you're doing something very different. You've got to move in all these different planes, because you are just sitting in the very position that most of us in a modern day life are stuck in. And it's so we've taken away this experience of mobilizing our joints in all the ways they need to. But yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. Because bursitis is, you have to unload it. Otherwise that little, you're going to feel like you're sitting on like life preservers. And it hurts. All right. But yeah, we are not kayaking experts. So, I mean, I've worked with rowers. It's not this. I think kayakers are even stuck in there more because they have to be. So you better work on that rotation. And I think working on an upward lift when you're sitting, like how do you use your pelvic floor contents to get lifted up into the spine and then freely rotate so you're not kind of down and compressed even more. Okay, Martha, I love the podcast. How do you and KB release stress? You both seem so cheery. Is that a British thing? No, I say cheery. But I imagine you must have some stress.
Oh, I absolutely have stress. First of all, I think that as far as the cheeriness goes, I have found in my life, happiness begets happiness. So like I have learned how much more effort it takes to be, I wouldn't say to be sad. Sadness is a different thing, but to be negative takes so much more energy than just to be a positive person. And I find that just makes me happier. So I do try to, really, and this is even my own self-talk. If I find myself talking to myself negatively, I'm like, stop, girl, like, why am I doing that? I also tend to, when I'm feeling stressed, I remove myself from the situation. And that could be body stress. So let's say if my knees are bothering me or my back's bothering me, I will do something else. I am not a sedentary person for the most part, but there are days where my body is saying to me, you just need to take a day off. I almost never take a day off of exercise. Actually, I would argue I never take a day off of exercise unless I'm sick. But I will modulate the intensity of it. I don't do meditation. I don't do breath work, but I do think that I know my inclinations well enough to, and I've done a lot of therapy and things like that have helped me along the way, just to know how to avoid or manage stressful situations. So reading, you guys know, most people know, I love to read. Music will will do that. I'm not a big TV person, but, getting outside in the sunshine, like some vitamin D goes a long way. Talking to good friends, and surrounding myself with people who are genuinely happy. Like, that's why Lara and I think gravitate towards each other because we're both pretty darn easygoing. And yeah, we have our moments, but it's like no drama.
Hmm.
I'll Lara, what else do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I don't feel like I have to purposefully release stress very often because, like KB, to me, this mindful movement that is strong, that is centered, that is clarifying, it does everything. It fortifies and it also allows, this un, untethering of anything that might be accumulating. So I think for a lot of people, stress comes from like if you talk about like like you're about to burst. What is this? What's the whole thing? The saying like burst your
I
steam
don't know.
kettle, like you're gonna
Oh yeah, blow your top,
blow your
basically.
top. That's it. See, I don't even know the term, but it's because it's cumulative. And the times I have felt like I needed to really release stress the most, and I was still moving a lot. I just tried to move a little bit more in nature. Just walking in nature is almost always a reset for me. And it can be 10 minutes. It's just all of a sudden I'm just like, oh yeah, this is really whatever I thought was a big deal. Because usually stress is like it's too many things to manage. And then I'm not, whatever. I'm pretty gentle on myself. And I think I'm pretty gentle with others. And that's, even though I have a high standard, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just think that, yeah, I just, I think again, you attract the people. Like if you look in your life, if you're asking this for yourself, like who makes you feel cheery? Like be around more of those people. You know that feeling. I know that feeling when I'm around people and they're complaining or they're like talking about somebody else, and it just I feel like dirty. Like I'm just like, ooh, I want to scrub that off. Well, that's energy. Like I just don't want that on me. So I think, yeah, be selective about who you're around. But yeah, movement helps. Um, and just remembering, having perspective. Like we're here for such a short time on um on this planet, and it's like, how do we want to spend our days? And if so, remove some of the things that are as much as possible, accumulating that, and take care of you. Because when you take care of you, I think that's the thing, unapologetically, because really nobody else is going to do it. Like really take care of you, and then you will find more of that balance, and then you're going to be better for other people.
That's
So
so important. I mean, I think I have done that my whole life. Like I
I
have
have
all
too. I think we're so similar in that way, and it's always yeah, maybe it's growing up with brothers. I don't know what it is, but it's like that was never like even, that was always something that was number one. But I see that a lot of people don't prioritize that. And I'm like, take something else off your plate, but don't take your self-care, your movement, the things that you need to balance you out, because
yeah.
that is the way you're going to stay, really calm and good and really right. Again, stress is good. It makes you productive. It makes you inspired. It makes you like have vision. But then you just like when you talk about release, like that's that accumulation. So just also do a daily check-in. Like, what am I feeling today? Am I waking up feeling angry or grumpy or just tired or like not like thinking about getting in bed? We've all had those days where you wake up and the first thing you're like, I can't wait until I get back in here tonight. I'll just get through the day. And that's like not a great feeling. Like you just want to bust through your day. So I think just keep the things, don't let them accumulate. So you like lose your shit at the end of the day or after a while. I've had stress that was outside of my control and I could feel it in my heart. And I know for me, like, again, getting out in nature and then occasionally doing a good old primal scream. Oh my God, that's like literally letting the steam out. Some people would like that and some people might not feel comfortable, but it's in our DNA to scream sometimes, not at somebody, but just to whah! Noise is energy, and all that energy is right here. Let me get it out. So don't be afraid to go and do a good primal scream in the woods, or sometimes I'll do it in my car. Usually, that's like once every 2 years, but there can be those moments. So it's not about like trying to be cheery all the time. Just set yourself up that you're more balanced. All right, friends, we love you. We love these questions. And thank you so much for, giving us the time to listen to this. If you ever want to ask your own questions, which we would love, you can also ask them anonymously. Just say, please keep this anonymous. Write us at support@lityoga.com.
Yep. You can also find us on Instagram. Lara is at lara.hyman and I am at kbwilliams99. You can also check out our podcast, Redefining Yoga Podcast Instagram page, and DM us there. They will forward that to us. So, we are so happy to answer these it's fun for us. Again, this brings us joy. So I think you pick up on how
It
much we
makes
love
us cheery. It makes us quite cheery. That's indeed. Well, we love you as always. We're pulling for you.